Hello, everybody, and welcome to my musical Webquest. I designed this Webquest with fifth grade students in mind and used both literacy skills from the New York State Next Gen standards as well as standards from New York State Arts and Music. So, a Webquest is a series, as you know from my last presentation, is a series of steps that a student does to complete an activity. It's not meant to be a teaching activity, so it's a process. It's a learning experience. So when the student would go to this web page, their first step would be to go to the web page. They would be brought to the introduction page, and it says "Music of the '60s, the Beatles." Introduction. Have you ever studied music from the past? By exploring trends in music, we are able to learn about the culture and experiences of the generation. This week, we will explore one of the most popular bands of the 1960s, the Beatles. Now, the student is responsible for completing or going through each of these five tabs. And on the next one, the task, I think I'll just show you that. One thing I made sure to do was have the program be read write compatible. So almost everything in this web page is read write compatible. So real quick, let's just, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but you'll see that it highlights and okay, so one really cool thing is that it is able to be accessed with the read write program, and it could also be compatible with other things such as Google Suite, Co-Writer. If you were to use a print copy, you could use the C Pen. Snap and Read and modified keyboards should work with this as well. So after the student understands what their task is, they have to copy a document into their drive. So when they would click on this, it will bring up the activity, and the student has to put it into their drive to edit it. And that's a process a lot of students know now, especially older students, because of the use of technology. In order to do that, if you had to teach that, you would go to make a copy, and then I would ask the student to put their name. So let's just pretend Danny Brusso. And then I might not be able to teach them what an underscore is, but they'll understand a dash. A dash would probably be easier for them. Danny Brusso, and I could just say it's a music web quest, right? So when they make the copy of it, they have access to their own copy. One really cool thing about Google is another UDL thing to consider, and please excuse my dog. One really cool thing is that there is the option to do voice typing. So if for question one they're answering, just open it. What is the name of the band? They can click the Beatles, and that would record their answer. Now they could also use other programs to add that as well. There's lots of voice to text programs, but it's really great that it's just built right in. If the students didn't have access to G Suite, they could also use this in Microsoft Suite. But I don't know about the text to talk function or text to speech to text function. So now that the student has their document open on a new page, they go through reading, and there's a picture at the bottom. The process is all of the things that they're going to complete. So here you can see that the process is broken up into three steps, and I tried to be considerate of using appropriate labelings and numbers. I also color coordinated the questions. So as the student answers the first four questions in purple, they know that they're answering the 4 questions in purple. I chose these colors because colors like green and blue can be difficult to differentiate if a student has visual impairments. Blue and purple and red are very bright colors as well. If I had a black background, I might use yellow too. So it's a 3-step process for the students. And generally, my classes can be 40 minutes to an hour long. And each activity has them going to a site and following through on completing an activity on the site. So when they click on the link, it will open them up to a kid version of Wikipedia and they can type or dictate the band name, and it will bring them to the Beatles Facts for Kids, where they can find information to answer the first 4 questions. And if the students are thoughtful, all of the answers can be found here, which I think is an important skill for students to know that you don't necessarily have to read the whole article to find the answers. That doesn't mean you shouldn't read the whole article, but they could complete this quite quickly if they were intuitive to that. So this is one element of differentiation that I included for students. Below the first process is a picture, and then I made a version for students who may need a simpler or modified image to look at. So using what we learned before about modifying content, I first just included all of the links in one spot so they're easy to find in order. And it goes through the process, begin by clicking the link, and it shows the mouse cursor. It has an image of the type of bar they'll be using, the stop signs to indicate, make sure that they complete the questions before moving on. And I included visuals where appropriate. I did not want to make the it too overwhelming, especially for 5th grade students in my classroom. Knowing the abilities that they have, this would be the most appropriate amount of modification for some students. Now, I encourage you to go on your own and check out this link and play around and look yourself. The evaluation portion, there's a Google Doc link. Snap and Read would work too, but I find it's just easier to use the Google Doc link to open the evaluation page. However, this is exactly what it looks like. And to make it simple, I split up the scoring over the series of 3 questions, and the range of scores is from basically not answering the question to completely appropriately answering the question. I didn't want to put too much about vocabulary because that's student specific, and I also didn't include a 4th exceptional spot because I find that it might make some students feel dissatisfied if they're not able to reach exemplary status. Although it might make our gifted students feel better, it could be a detriment to other students. The conclusion I made really short. One thing that I think would be super fun is to, if I were to do web quests, I would have the kids earn experience based on how they performed. And I've also got this cute picture of the Beatles waving and, being uh, photographic, I suppose. A few more things. I'm first going to show you my second. So we have the original version. There's the modified version, almost like we did for our activity last week. And then I also made version 2.0. And version 2.0 was inspired for the student who I have many of these students who they would struggle to click on all of these different links. So I modified a few things. I put all of the processes in on one page and I simplified the information. I made the links and the process spread out. I included the numbers and the name and the exact text I used for the questions. And this is a way for my students who may have better visual spatial reasoning, may need modified or simplified text. This would be the version I might recommend for them. And I liked calling it version 2.0 because I was trying to think of a way to make it sound good, or have a positive spin on it. So if I ask a student to do version 2.0, then they might not have that same feeling of, oh, I'm doing an easier version. No, it's just version 2.0, the same questions simplified, including the evaluation and the conclusion. I really encourage you to look at version 2.0. Before I conclude, I'm going to show you two things. Number one is you should have a credits page. I attributed myself as the creator and the resources I used, as well as that they're all for educational purposes only. And I think that's always an important thing to put, especially because the Beatles are very popular and they are very protected with their images and their song licenses. So I'm not gaining any money for this. And goodness, as much as I'd love to use things that are just public domain, a lot of their images aren't. However, I did put where I got the resources and what I used. So it's all able to be tracked. And on the teacher page, I included the standards just so if somebody ever stumbled across this, they're more than welcome to see what standards I used from both Next Gen and New York State. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and I will link the Webquest as well as additional resources to our forum. Please share any information or thoughts you have with me. I love hearing what you guys think, and thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.